A living house sailed toward Native American Lenape in 1609, sparking panic and prayers. Was this Manito, the spirit they revered? Nope. Just Dutch sailors on the Half Moon, clueless about the sacred chaos they'd unleashed. The Lenape readied feasts, the Dutch offered liquor. This wasn't the spiritual awakening Mannahatta expected, it was a drunken prelude to a world turned upside down. The 3rd of September, 1609. Native American Lenape fishermen paddled through New York Bay's calm waters, nets heavy with fish, when a shadow loomed. The Half Moon, a 24-meter Dutch vessel, sliced through their world like a fever dream. Its sails billowed, alien against the horizon. To these men, who knew every ripple of Muhiakantuk, this wasn't a ship, it was a paradox. Some whispered of a sea beast, others swore it was a house, alive and drifting. They abandoned their nets and rowed hard for shore, hearts pounding with a mix of dread and wonder. History doesn't record their names, but their shock rewrote the future. Word spread faster than wildfire. The fishermen stumbled into their Mannahatta village, babbling about a floating house bigger than any canoe. Men, women, children, everyone rushed to the rocky shore, squinting at the half-moon's silhouette. Debates erupted. One elder insisted it was a giant fish, scales replaced by wood. A young hunter argued it was a spirit's lodge, sent by Manito to test them. No one had seen Europeans, so their minds grasped at what they knew. Nature, spirits, survival. The truth? They were staring at a Dutch crew who'd soon trade beads for their world. The Lenape weren't easily spooked, but this was different. Families clustered on the beach, pointing as the half-moon crept closer to Muhiakantuk's mouth. Kids hid behind parents, warriors gripped spears, unsure if this was threat or miracle. Some saw the ship's slow drift as proof of life, a creature with purpose. Others, steeped in Algonquian tales, sensed a spiritual weight. Manito, the great spirit, could manifest in strange forms, right? Robert Jouet, a Dutch officer, later wrote of friendly natives offering tobacco. He didn't mention their confusion or how their world was already tilting. By dusk, the Lenape reached a shaky consensus. The half-moon was no mere object. Its deliberate path toward their river screamed intent. Maybe it carried Manito himself, or a message from the spirit world. The fishermen's tales grew wilder: wooden walls, cloth wings, colors no fish ever wore. No one slept easy that night. They didn't know Henry Hudson's crew was aboard, plotting trade routes, not divine missions. The Lenape saw a sacred riddle. The Dutch saw profit. In 1609, Mannahatta became a stage for a cosmic misunderstanding that echoed for centuries. As the ship anchored near their shores, the Lenape didn't flee. Curiosity won out. They watched, whispered, prayed. The half-moon's presence demanded action rituals, councils, something. This wasn't just a sighting, it was a challenge to everything they understood. The next day, they'd send runners, call warriors, and prepare for what they thought was a divine encounter. Spoiler: it was just the Dutch, with liquor and ambition. The Lenape's awe was about to collide with a reality no one could have predicted, least of all them. Jouet's journal, scribbled aboard the half-moon, noted natives waving from the shore, trading corn and tobacco. He didn't see their fear, their prayers, or the weight of what they'd mistaken for Manito. The Lenape thought they were greeting a spirit. They were actually opening the door to New Netherland. This first glimpse of the Dutch wasn't just a moment, it was the spark of a slow-burning fuse that had changed Mannahatta forever. The chaos was just getting started. The Lenape didn't waste time. By dawn on the 4th of September, 1609, runners sprinted across Mannahatta's trails, and canoes sliced through Muhiakantuk's currents. Their mission: alert every Native American village about the living house in the bay. The half-moon's arrival wasn't just a local oddity, it demanded a regional response. Elders in nearby settlements dropped their tasks, listening as messengers described a vessel defying all logic. Some scoffed, others prayed. The Algonquian network, built on trust and trade, hummed with urgency. The Dutch, oblivious, were just checking their maps. Messengers reached the sachems, Lenape, and possibly Mohican chiefs with breathless reports. The floating house was no myth. It was real, and it was close. Sachems summoned warriors and wise men to Mannahatta, the heart of Lenape life. By midday, dozens gathered, their faces painted with purpose. They stood on cliffs, watching the half-moon anchor. Was this Manito's chariot or a threat? No one knew. But inaction wasn't an option. The Dutch, meanwhile, were probably arguing over who'd get the best furs. History loves that irony. As the half-moon settled in the bay, the Lenape's debate intensified. Its vibrant sails, maybe Dutch flags, flashed like nothing in nature. Warriors pointed to its size, elders noted its calm drift. They agreed. This was no ordinary thing. Manito, the spirit woven into rivers and skies, seemed the only explanation. The ship wasn't just a visitor, it was a sign. Some whispered of blessings, others of warnings. The Dutch, sipping brandy aboard, had no clue they'd been cast as gods in a drama they didn't write. The sachems called a grand council under Mannahatta's oaks. Smoke curled from ceremonial pipes as leaders debated how to greet this Manito. They settled on reverence, a big dance, offerings, rituals to honor the spirit. No one wanted to anger a force this strange. The council's decision was unanimous: show respect, prepare for awe. They didn't know Henry Hudson's crew was more interested in beaver pelts than divine status. The Lenape's sacred plans were about to meet a very human reality. While men debated, Lenape women sprang into action. They ground corn, roasted venison, and dried fish, crafting a feast fit for a god. This wasn't just hospitality, it was strategy. A pleased Manito might bless their hunts or spare their villages. Children helped, wide-eyed, as the air filled with the scent of smoked meat. The women's work grounded the community's hope, but no one foresaw the Dutch would offer liquor instead of miracles. The feast was ready. The misunderstanding was ripening. Drums echoed across Mannahatta as the big dance began. Warriors painted their bodies, women sang, and elders led rhythmic steps to honor Manito. The half-moon loomed in the distance, its colors now vivid red, white, orange. The Lenape saw divine signals. The Dutch saw a good anchorage. The dance's energy was electric, meant to soothe or impress the spirit. New runners arrived, reporting creatures on the ship. The Lenape danced harder, unaware they were welcoming sailors, not saviors. Metnuak, the Lenape shamans, lit tobacco and chanted, seeking Manito's intent. Their visions were murky, no clear prophecy emerged. Was this a gift or a curse? The community watched, torn between hope and dread. The shaman's silence fueled unease, but the rituals continued. The Dutch, meanwhile, were likely polishing their trade goods, oblivious to the spiritual crisis on shore. The Lenape's faith in signs was about to crash into a reality that didn't play by their rules. Fresh messengers arrived, breathless. The house held beings pale, oddly dressed, moving like men but not quite. One wore a red coat, gleaming like fire. Was he Manito himself? Some Lenape imagined new game animals, gifts from the spirit. Others saw a floating village, alive with strange people. The truth Dutch sailors planning trade was beyond their grasp. The half-moon's horn blared, and the Lenape roared back, their welcome a mix of joy and fear. By nightfall, Mannahatta pulsed with anticipation. The big dance grew frenzied, drums drowning out doubts. The Lenape's shouts answered the ship's sounds, a dialogue of misunderstanding. They saw Manito's envoy. The Dutch saw friendly natives. The feast was ready. The rituals peaked, and the shaman's prayers hung heavy. Tomorrow, the Lenape would meet the red-coated man, not knowing he was just a Dutch officer. The 11th of September, 1609. The half-moon's anchor dropped near Mannahatta, and Native American Lenape lined the shore, hearts racing. Some warriors, spooked by the ship's looming bulk, urged a retreat into the forest. A floating house was one thing, facing its inhabitants was another. But the sachems, calm and resolute, held firm. Fleeing might anger Manito, the great spirit they believed steered this vessel. Punishment could be swift drought, failed hunts, or worse. So they stayed, spears lowered but grips tight, ready to meet whatever emerged. The Dutch, oblivious, were just happy to stretch their legs. A small rowboat broke the bay's stillness, carrying a man in a red coat, likely a Dutch officer, maybe Henry Hudson himself, flanked by a handful of sailors. The Lenape watched, transfixed, as the boat scraped Mannahatta's shore. The red coat gleamed, gold trim catching the sun, a sight as alien as the ship itself. 3 men stepped onto the sand, Others stayed to guard the boat. The sachems formed a wide circle, their faces unreadable. The red-coated man raised a hand, a gesture of peace. The Lenape mirrored it, their own salute cautious but open. The two groups faced off, a tableau of mutual confusion. The Lenape, in deerskin and feathers, studied the Dutchman's pale skin and woolen clothes. The redcoat's shine drew gasps, surely a mark of divinity. The Dutch, per Robert Jewett's journal, saw friendly natives, eager to trade. Gestures bridged the language gap. Waves, nods, palms up. The Lenape offered bows or raised hands, their welcome formal yet wary. No one knew they were scripting history's opening act, where curiosity outpaced fear, but only just. The air crackled with unspoken questions. To the Lenape, the red-coated man was no mere mortal. His vibrant garb and confident stride screamed Manito, or at least his envoy. But his white skin puzzled them. Spirits in their lore weren't so pale. Whispers rippled through the circle. Was this a new kind of god? The Dutchman's companions, in drab jackets, seemed lesser, like attendants to his power. The Lenape's awe was palpable, their eyes darting from his coat to his face. The Dutch, meanwhile, were probably eyeing the natives' tobacco, not their theology. Classic misunderstanding. Stage 1. A Dutch servant stepped forward, lugging a small cask, likely brandy or gin, the Dutch's idea of diplomacy. The red-coated man poured a clear liquid into a metal cup, raised it, and drank deeply, smiling. The Lenape froze. Was this a ritual? Poison? Magic? He poured another cup and offered it to the nearest sachem. The chief sniffed, recoiled, and passed it on. The cup circled, each man sniffing and declining, suspicion outweighing courtesy. To them, this wasn't a toast, it was a test, and no one wanted to fail. The cup nearly made it back to the red-coated man, untouched. The Lenape weren't rude, they were terrified. Refusing Manito's gift could doom them, but drinking unknown liquid felt like tempting fate. Murmurs grew frantic. The Dutch watched, puzzled, their friendly gesture souring. The sachems' faces tightened. Rejecting this could insult the spirit they'd danced for. The circle held its breath, the cup a ticking bomb of cultural misfire. Someone had to act, or this divine encounter would collapse into awkward silence. History doesn't love those moments, but they happen. A Lenape warrior, broad-shouldered and respected, broke the stalemate. He rose, voice steady, and addressed the circle. Returning the cup undrunk was cowardice, he argued, an affront to Manito's will. If this was a test, he'd face it. Better one dies than all perish, he declared, his words heavy with sacrifice. The crowd stilled, admiring his nerve. He wasn't just saving face, he was shielding his people from a god's wrath. The Dutch? Clueless. Probably thought he was just thirsty. That's the 1609 vibe. The warrior took the cup, saluted the sachems, and downed the brandy in one gulp. His face twisted. Gin wasn't corn beer. The Lenape watched, expecting miracles or death. Seconds later, he swayed, eyes glassy, and collapsed in a heap. Panic erupted. Women wailed, warriors gripped weapons, assuming poison. The sachems stared, horrified, as their brave man lay still. The Dutch, unfazed, waited. They'd seen this before, lightweights meeting hard liquor. To them, it was a party trick. To the Lenape, it was the end. Minutes passed, then the warrior stirred. He blinked, staggered upright, and grinned like he'd seen the spirit world and liked it. "This is joy!" he shouted, demanding another cup. The Lenape's grief flipped to wonder. Was this Manito's blessing? The Dutch, amused, poured more. Sachems and warriors joined in, passing the cask. Soon, Mannahatta's shore echoed with slurred chants and unsteady laughter. The brandy, stronger than any native brew, turned reverence into a drunken bash. First contact wasn't just a meeting, it was a bender. As the sun dipped, the Lenape reeled, their sacred welcome now a hazy blur. The warrior's gamble became legend, a tale of courage and unexpected bliss. Jewett's journal mentions no drunkenness, but the Lenape's oral tradition does, marking this as their first taste of European liquor. The Dutch rode back to the Half Moon, likely chuckling at the natives' low tolerance. The Lenape thought they'd communed with Manito. They'd actually just met the Dutch's favorite export. History's irony is relentless like that. By morning, hangovers hit Mannahatta like a storm. The Lenape nursed headaches, piecing together the night. Their awe for the red-coated man held, but now tinged with curiosity. The brandy's power wasn't divine, but it was something. The Dutch, meanwhile, saw a trade opportunity: furs for liquor, a deal as old as empire. This drunken dawn wasn't just a party. It was the first crack in the Lenape's world, a glimpse of the cultural tidal wave coming their way. The Lenape woke with pounding heads, Mannahatta's shore littered with memories of brandy-fueled chaos. The Dutch rode back from the half-moon, their red-coated leader unfazed by the previous night's revelry. Native American Lenape gathered, still buzzing about the Manito who gifted liquid fire. Today, the Dutch brought trinkets, glass beads, iron axes, woolen socks, standard European trade bait. The Lenape, unaware of the market value, saw divine offerings. What followed wasn't just an exchange, it was a cultural comedy of errors, with history taking notes. The red-coated Dutchman laid out his wares, gesturing grandly. Beads sparkled. Axes gleamed. Socks existed. The Lenape reciprocated with beaver pelts, tobacco, and corn wealth in their world. Smiles crossed the language barrier, but meaning didn't. The Dutch saw profit. The Lenape saw sacred reciprocity. Robert Jewett's journal notes the natives' eagerness, not their belief that Manito's gifts sealed a spiritual bond. Each side thought they'd won the deal, but only one was playing chess. Spoiler, it wasn't the Lenape. Mannahatta's innocence was slipping. Through signs and grunts, the Dutch signaled they'd leave soon but return next year with more shiny stuff. The Lenape nodded, thrilled at the prospect of another divine visit. The Dutch also mimed a request, a small plot to grow crops. To the Lenape, sharing land was no big deal. Land belonged to all, like air. They didn't know the Dutch saw dirt as property. This handshake wasn't a pact. It was a prelude to a rug pull that had reshaped Native American lives. When the Dutch returned in 1610, they found the Lenape sporting their gifts creatively. Axes hung around necks like pendants. Hoes dangled as chest ornaments. Socks? Now tobacco pouches. The Dutch stifled laughs, their practical tools turned into Native American bling. The Lenape, proud of their ingenuity, didn't get the joke. This wasn't disrespect, just a culture clash where utility met symbolism. The Dutch, ever pragmatic, saw a chance to teach, but their chuckles hinted at a deeper arrogance. History smirked along. The Dutch took pity, or maybe saw a business opportunity. They demonstrated. Axes, chop trees, hose till soil, socks warm feet. The Lenape watched, then erupted in laughter. Socks on feet? Absurd. Their bare souls knew Mannahatta's trails better. Chopping trees was handy, though. The lesson ended in shared grins. But the Lenape still saw the red-coated man as Manito supreme, his crew lesser spirits. The Dutch didn't correct them, they were too busy eyeing the beaver pelts. The Lenape's worldview slotted the Dutch into their cosmology. The red-coated leader was Manito's avatar, his sailors, subordinate spirits. This wasn't just respect, it was how they made sense of the incomprehensible. The Dutch, clueless about their divine status, kept trading. Their minds on furs and forts. Every bead swapped deepened the Lenape's trust and the Dutch's leverage. Mannahatta's shore became a stage where gifts masked motives, and Native American generosity laid the groundwork for a very Dutch future. By 1610, the Dutch were cozy with the Lenape, their half-moon visits a Mannahatta staple. They floated a new idea, a tiny plot for gardening, just enough for a bull's hide to cover. Native American Lenape, who shared land like neighbors share fire, saw no harm. Land wasn't owned, it was used, hunted, lived on. They agreed, expecting a modest patch. The Dutch, though, had a trick up their woolen sleeves, and it wasn't going to be a friendly neighbor vibe. The Dutch produced a bull's hide, then surprise sliced it into a thin, endless strip. They stretched it into a wide circle, claiming a chunk of Mannahatta far bigger than the Lenape expected. The natives blinked, amazed at the cleverness but not alarmed. They had plenty of land for hunting and fishing. Why fuss over a garden? They didn't grasp that the Dutch saw this as permanent ownership, not a shared lease. History loves a sleight of hand, doesn't it? The Lenape's hospitality was their strength and their undoing. Sharing land fit their ethos of community, not contracts. They couldn't imagine the Dutch's hunger for total control. As years passed, more gardens sprouted. By 1626, Peter Minuit bought Manhattan for 60 guilders worth of beads and metal. The Lenape likely saw it as another sharing deal, not a sale. Their trust was a bridge the Dutch crossed, then burned. Native American innocence met European ambition, and guess who won? From 1610 to 1626, Dutch settlements New Amsterdam, Fort Orange sprawled like weeds. Native American Lenape watched their trails become trade routes, their forests cleared for farms. They didn't yet see the endgame. By 1664, when the English snatched New Netherland, the Lenape's coastal lands were mostly gone. Their world, once boundless, shrank to scraps. The Dutch had turned Mannahatta into a chessboard, and the Lenape weren't even players. History's slow grind rarely favors the generous. The Lenape's patience frayed as Dutch demands grew. The 1643-1645 Kief's War was the breaking point. Hundreds of Lenape died in brutal raids, their villages torched. Survivors fled inland, their coastal routes severed. The Dutch, once Manito with shiny gifts, were now invaders, their axes no longer chopping just trees. The Lenape's early trust became a bitter lesson. Sharing with strangers can cost everything. Mannahatta's spirit dimmed, replaced by a city that forgot its first hosts. The Lenape's story began with awe dancing for a floating house, toasting a red-coated god. By the 1640s, that warmth was ash. They'd welcomed the Dutch, shared their land, and learned too late that generosity doesn't survive greed. New Amsterdam's rise marked North America's colonial dawn, built on Native American loss. The Lenape saga isn't just history, it's a warning about trusting strangers with shiny beads and slick promises. Mannahatta's heart still beats, but its first people paid the price. That bull's hide trick, maybe more legend than fact, sums it up. The Dutch played a long game, and the Lenape didn't know the rules. Their land, their trust, their future gone in a generation. New Netherland's archives, like those from the New Netherland Institute, show a one-sided deal. The Lenape's loss wasn't just land, it was a way of life. History doesn't cry over it, but it damn sure remembers. The Lenape greeted a god, got gin, and lost Mannahatta. The Dutch traded beads for an empire. First contact wasn't divine, it was a drunken deal gone wrong. The Lenape's trust met European greed, reshaping history's map. Their loss lingers in New York's concrete. Subscribe, comment. What's your take on this clash? Share, and stay tuned for more.